Meet our protagonist, a core member of the hero party, at least he was until today. In a brutal twist, his own childhood bestie just handed him a pink slip. Orun can't wrap his head around it. They grew up together. And they have been side by side this whole time. The friend admits their history but drops the nice guy act, speaking with pure pity. He claims the only reason he kept the protagonist around this long was out of charity for a fellow villager. But apparently the road ahead is too intense. He claims he is terrified our boy won't keep up, so giving him the boot is supposedly an act of mercy. Talk about a toxic breakup. The rest of the squad jumps on the bandwagon, labeling Orun dead weight. The dagger goes deeper, coming from Oliver, the orange-haired prodigy who hit S-rank status in just a few years. This crew actually cleared floor 94, a zone nobody else has ever touched, earning them the legendary hero title. Orun knows he is lacking compared to them. But honestly, he doesn't think the others are that special either. Oliver shuts him down, claiming the team finally understands the meta, specifically how crucial a buffer class really is. During a raid operation last month, they got a front-row seat to watch a legitimate S-rank enchanter from another guild in action. It made them realize just how trash Orun's support magic is by comparison. Which makes sense considering Orun is naturally a swordsman. He only stepped back to let Mr. Orange Hair take the DPS role, so he shifted to support duties. Meanwhile, the blonde guy and the female teammate clearly despise our hero, constantly using him as a scapegoat for their failures. He sacrificed his own progression, switching classes solely to help his friends climb the ranks. And his reward being insulted as half-baked trash. Orun is absolutely seething. Oliver drops the final bomb. He has already scouted a top-tier buffer to replace him. Arguing is pointless. The decision is set in stone. The girl pipes up, claiming they are the only real members of the hero party anyway. To them, Orun is just luggage, so he needs to accept reality and leave. Orun thanks them for the memories sarcastically before getting roasted one last time. It is hilarious how these A-rank posers act like they are S-rank gods. It is enough to make anyone snap. The next day, Orun heads solo into the labyrinth to see if his blade still bites. Since he spent so long playing support, he is worried his swordsmanship might be rusty. The upside, he can buff himself. This makes chopping through monsters a breeze. His goal for today is simple: regain his old combat rhythm. He also needs to benchmark his buff durations. So we have a swordsman who can overclock his own stats, charging straight into a monster horde. His skill boosts all stats and even enhances his gear. It wasn't just for teammates. The magic works perfectly on the caster too. The catch is the timer. The buff lasts exactly 3 minutes. Orun calls it a weakness, but for those 3 minutes he is an absolute powerhouse. Plus he can just spam the activation the second it runs out without breaking a sweat. He wants to stress test the spell to see if the duration fluctuates. Specifically, does fatigue affect the timer? That is why he is grinding so hard. When the timer hits the 3-second mark, Orun triggers the recast. Result: 0 downtime on the buffs. For him, the enchanter class is a constant race against the clock, which is tricky when you are also swinging a sword. Managing cooldowns while fighting melee is insane. Nobody plays this build because it is too chaotic, but Orun is built different. Life threw him a curveball, so he is swinging for the fences. Even if they call him a jack-of-all-trades, master of none, survival is what counts. He makes a firm decision right there. From now on, he is mastering this hybrid spellsword style. After clearing the floor, Orun saves his checkpoint at the 7th level so he doesn't have to run the whole thing next time. Saves a lot of walking. Just then, a group of panicked adventurers bursts out. Originally, Orun planned to mind his own business, but he overhears that a young girl was left behind with the monsters. Their team leader made the executive call to sacrifice her to save the other 4. To make it worse, she had just joined their party that day. Orun clenches his jaw. He knows exactly what it feels like to be discarded by teammates. He calls them out for being gutless cowards. One guy tries to sucker punch him, but Orun drops him instantly. He demands the location. If they won't save her, he will. Inside the dungeon, the little girl is cornered by massive beasts. Fortunately, the redhead knows some defensive magic. She throws up a barrier to stall, but she is outnumbered and running out of mana. Just as she cries out for her big sister, Orun crashes the party, binding the monsters with a spell. Then he goes full berserker mode. He is slashing and casting buffs simultaneously, leaving the girl totally confused. Is he a swordsman or a mage? The monsters don't stand a chance. Orun cycles through different enchantments, his blade carving through them like a protagonist in a broken leveling anime. The redhead is in awe of this combat style. She sees why the other group fled. The sheer volume of enemies is a nightmare, but Orun is soloing the entire mob. It is pure skill honed since childhood. He turns the entire swarm into loot drops. Seeing the threat neutralized, the girl finally remembers to breathe. Orun tries to make a cool exit, but she insists on buying him dinner as a thank you. She introduces herself as Sophia, and the name rings a bell for our hero. She is clearly smitten and won't take no for an answer. Unable to resist the puppy eyes, Oren agrees. They head to a spot she claims is cheap but delicious. Her badge identifies her as a member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbit, a top-tier guild representing the kingdom. By pure coincidence, Sophia's older sister is already at the restaurant. Seeing her little sister with a boy triggers immediate protective mode, no dating allowed. She then recognizes Oren. Her name is Selma, and she accuses him of trying to seduce her sibling. Selma isn't just anyone. She is the leader of Silver Rabbit's S-rank squad, and is hailed as the continent's strongest enchanter. She is a celebrity in this world. Her fame comes from proving how vital support classes are. Thanks to her, people started building balanced teams with proper support roles. Even the hero party followed her meta. That is literally the reason Oren switched classes to enchanter for that big raid last month. They saw Selma's power firsthand and were blown away. Orun finally clicks why Sophia looked familiar. He tries to de-escalate, explaining it is just a platonic dinner. Sophia jumps in to defend him, scolding her sister for being rude to her savior. That tips Selma off her little sister sneaked into the dungeon again. Sophia hadn't reported her dive to the guild, but since she is safe, Selma swallows her anger and shifts gears. She sincerely thanks Orun for saving her reckless sister. They sit down to chat, and Sophia asks how they know each other, prompting Orun to recap the raid from a month ago. Since both of them were enhancers, they were assigned to the same spot. But Selma immediately took charge, earning the young man's respect. She also made sure to give Orun major props for his abilities. She even let her little sister in on the secret that he used to be a member of the heroes party. Sophia was totally shook, but Orun had to break the news that he wasn't part of that squad anymore. Fact was, he'd been kicked to the curb just yesterday. Selma seemed genuinely surprised that they would let a talent like him go, but since it wasn't exactly a highlight of his life, the main character kept the details to himself. The redhead then made an offer that Orun initially mistook for an invite to the Night Sky Silver Hair Guild, but it was something else entirely. Something she claimed was perfect for a guy like him. Starting tomorrow, Selma wanted him to join a special training expedition her guild was organizing. Of course, there was a solid paycheck involved. The gig was basically guiding and teaching rookies alongside a few other A-rank veterans, with the ultimate goal of reaching floor 51 in the southern dungeon. The catch was the time limit. They only had 3 days for a run that usually takes top-tier rookies half a year. Selma insisted that if they took the shortest route, it was actually doable. This was a direct order from the higher-ups, so she couldn't exactly say no. Hearing that, Orun realized that even a massive guild like theirs had strings being pulled from the shadows. Normally the redhead would have shot down such a reckless plan, so he figured she had an ulterior motive. His deduction skills were so sharp that even Selma was caught off guard. In this dungeon, a boss waits on every 10th floor, and beating it unlocks the next level. The plan was to have the veteran adventurers crush the bosses. That way the rookies could breeze through and still get the credit. It was a crucial scheme for her side, and she only invited Orun because she trusted him completely. He appreciated the high praise, but the sting of being booted from his team was something Orun couldn't just shake off. It was still a fresh wound. Going back to work as a support enhancer right now felt humiliating. So he gave her a condition: he'd join, but only if he could fight as a swordsman, not a support mage. Selma was floored, but when she asked why, he didn't give her an answer. On his way home, the young man swung by an acquaintance's place, an old man whose business was finally booming. It was all thanks to Orun's promotion, but now that he was out of the hero's party, he worried it might blow back on the shopkeeper. The old man, however, didn't give a damn. He told Orun he was grateful regardless. Hero or not, Orun was still Orun. He also offered some advice for the road ahead. He told Orun to live freely and actually experience the world. The next day, his friend took him to meet the guildmaster of the Night Sky Silver Hair. The guy introduced himself as Vincent. Since Orun was a free agent now, the conversation flowed easily, and he wanted the full rundown on this expedition. Selma reiterated the main objective: to conquer everything from floor 1 to floor 51 in just 3 days. Specifically, they needed to hit floor 21 by the end of day 1. The redhead had already mentioned the MC leaving the hero's party, and Vincent agreed it was a huge loss for the other side. They knew the team was nothing without Orun. Without him, the rest of them would struggle to tap into their true power. Selma backed this up, confirming that those guys only got strong because of the main character's support magic. Even if his buffs were technically weaker than hers, his activation speed was insane, at least 4 times faster. Plus, the guy had mastered a whole arsenal of other spells. His tactical thinking and situational awareness were top tier. Basically, Orun had every skill a support enhancer needed, so the hero's party was definitely going to take a nosedive. Meanwhile, her guild was poised to reclaim the #1 spot. Everyone usually focused on her talent, failing to realize that Orun was the real powerhouse in this leveling anime scenario. He then asked about the setup: 5 guides for 10 rookie teams. The rookies would handle the fighting, but if things went south, the guides would step in. Still, Orun couldn't wrap his head around the numbers. 5 guides for that many squads wasn't just risky, It was bordering on suicidal. Selma was hiding the real reason, claiming she just wanted the rookies to build some character through hardship. Oren knew a fake excuse when he heard one, but decided not to pry. He agreed to the job. The guildmaster tossed him 2 gold coins up front with another 10 promised upon completion. That was enough cash to live off for a whole year. The redhead explained that since they valued him so highly, the pay had to match. The next day, the whole expedition crew assembled. The 2 redheaded sisters walked over to say hello. Sophia was super soft-spoken, which Oren really liked, and he even complimented her little sister on how good the uniform looked. The older sister thought he was trying to hit on her sibling, so she shut that down immediately. She grilled him on his relationship status, but turns out he's single. Even though he used to room with the female hero squad, he never really looked at them that way. Currently living in a rental, he figured if he nailed this mission, he could finally afford a proper house. Seeing Oren hesitating to approach the guild rookies, Selma stepped in. She dragged the main character over for introductions. The 5 guides, including the couple, were all present. Knowing Oren was a heavy hitter put everyone at ease. Oren's role, frontline attacker. The 5 of them covered different roles, theoretically making a balanced team. However, Oren's gut told him something about this plan was off. Selma flashed back to her talk with the guildmaster. Their guild had lost its ace and hit a plateau. They weren't growing anymore. That was exactly why she recruited Oren to fill that void. But his demand to be a swordsman was throwing a wrench in the gears. The redhead introduced Oren to the rookies as a former member of the heroes party, which instantly boosted morale and wiped away their fear. She even dropped the bomb that he had cleared floor 94. Everyone marched into the dungeon hyped up, while Oren felt awkward about being put on such a high pedestal, but the fact remained he really had reached the 94th floor. Orun was assigned to lead Team 10, consisting of Sophia and 2 other members. Selma hinted they were potential stars. She asked Oren to look after them. He was confused why his team only had 3 people while the others were packed. The blonde finally explained why. It was because nobody else could keep up with their specific abilities. Logan introduced himself as the team leader and support enhancer. Then there was Carolyn, the busty defender. The catch: she didn't use armor or shields, relying entirely on evasion because she hated being touched by monsters. Sophia was the backline mage. She seemed like the only normal one, while the other 2 were a total handful. And so, the mission began. The training expedition was underway. The initial excitement evaporated, replaced by thick tension. Caroline turned to ask Oren a question. She wanted to know why a hero's party member was slumming it on this trip. He admitted he used to be one, but he'd left. Beyond that, the guy wasn't in the mood to spill his guts. So he just straight up ignores the orange-haired girl's question. She keeps chatting about how Orun and Sophia already knew each other, bringing up that mention of a special guest on the trip. It's pretty obvious that mystery guest was Oren all along. Our redhead gets all shy, explaining how he saved her life, and since her big sister vouched for him, she feels totally safe. Suddenly, magic beasts start creeping up from behind. Not wanting to spook the newbies, Oren secretly activates a trap skill to wipe them out instantly. This trap magic is super handy since he can set it in advance, keeping their dungeon run moving without any delays. In no time, they breeze their way down to the 20th floor. Orun honestly thought Logan was just a loudmouth, but the kids actually got the skills to back up that ego. As for Caroline, her speed is seriously impressive. Still, both of them are total greenhorns when it comes to real combat. Sophia is way more modest, but her raw talent leaves the other rookies in the dust. This trio is definitely going to be a powerhouse later on. It's no wonder Selma flagged them as high-potential recruits in this leveling anime setting. Thanks to the 5 instructors, they melt the floor boss in record time, wrapping up the first day of exploration. All they have to do is save their progress data to their cards, and they're done. But the next morning, headlines are screaming that Oren didn't leave his old party, he got booted. Seeing that splashed all over the paper really grinds his gears. He just wants to get through this expedition without his reputation taking a nosedive in front of the students. He heads to the meeting spot to start day 2 when a familiar face rushes over. It's Luna, the one person he was actually tight with back in the heroes' party. She wasn't around when the drama went down, so she couldn't stop it. Now the Luna is begging him to come back, saying they desperately need his strength, but Orun shuts that down immediately. He's got 0 attachment left. Luna clearly hasn't read the morning news yet, innocently promising she'll talk some sense into the others. The answer is still a hard no. Whatever promises they made in the past don't matter anymore, especially since Oliver was the one who personally kicked him to the curb. He apologizes and walks away, leaving her heartbroken. Part of him wishes the 3 of them could go back to the good old days, but that bridge is burned. Oren arrives at the assembly area in a sour mood. He's worried the scandal will undermine his authority, and sure enough, the kids are already whispering about his expulsion from the heroes squad. Logan is particularly bothered by the lack of ability claim. Yesterday, Orun was introduced as someone who retired voluntarily, so finding out he was fired feels like a betrayal. Oren gets the usual greetings, but the vibe is definitely off compared to yesterday. Just then, Selma runs up bowing her head in apology for hyping him up so much without knowing the messy truth. Our main character brushes it off, telling her to chill before she ruins the trip's morale. He takes the blame, admitting he made things awkward by not being up front from the start. Drama aside, he promises to give the training his all. The other instructors aren't sweating it either. They know Oren has legitimately cleared down to the 94th floor. That feat alone is insane, so they know he's overqualified. Since the redhead knows his true power, this part of the anime recap shifts gears as the second day of the dungeon dive begins. Oren links up with his trio. Caroline and Sophia act normal, but the blonde guy Logan is clearly hung up on it since he had such high expectations. He bluntly asks if the newspaper article is true. Oren just chuckles and admits it's not exactly wrong. He really was considered too weak for that team. Either way, he's not a hero anymore. The redhead jumps to his defense, insisting he's still incredibly strong. She watched him wipe out dozens of massive monsters in the blink of an eye. Her support actually cheers him up. He rallies the team, assuring them they'll definitely make it down to floor 51 as planned. He swears he'll keep them safe if things get hairy. Today's route covers floors 21 through 35, but Oren warns them the difficulty spikes significantly after floor 31. For now, it's a cakewalk. Caroline works the front line like a pro, while Sophia and Logan handle support from the back. Before long, they hit the 31st floor. Now Oren steps in to coach. Sensing enemies nearby, he orders Caroline to run bait on a goblin pack and assigns the redhead to take out an orc creeping up behind them. Logan is on support duty. He's annoyed because Oren's commands are literally just textbook theory. He thinks the guy has nothing special to offer. With some buffs applied, the orange-haired girl confidently tears through the mob. The weak link is Sophia, who's still shaken up from her previous trauma. While Logan is mentally writing Oren off, our MC secretly casts a spell to massively weaken the monster. He gently encourages the girl, reminding her she's got a team watching her back. Telling Sophia to breathe and focus, he watches as she regains her composure. She unleashes a high-tier fire spell that blasts the creature, stunning the rest of the group. She really is Selma's sister. Pulling off advanced magic like that is no joke. Caroline rushes over to high-five her friend for the epic kill. The blonde kid is confused, not realizing Oren used a system anime-style debuff to set up Sophia's attack. But there's no time to think. On floor 35, a massive boss appears. At a glance, Logan declares their party can't handle this beast. Oren ignores the negativity and orders Caroline to charge straight in. While the blonde guy casts buffs, Caroline doesn't hesitate. She trusts Oren implicitly. Logan tries to jump in to help, but Oren blocks him, saying that will only make things messier. Caroline follows the plan perfectly, slipping behind the enemy and successfully splitting the giant spider's focus. Thanks to her insane speed, dodging the melee attacks is a breeze. She buys enough time to enrage the spider, at which point Oren orders Logan to keep refreshing the buffs. With the tank holding aggro, Sophia switches to offense. She fires off wind blades that slice into the spider's legs, crippling its movement. Caroline celebrates, but the MC barks at her to keep fighting. Logan keeps applying buffs exactly as ordered, though he's totally lost on the strategy. Suddenly, the spider shoots a web and snares the orange-haired girl. It's all part of the plan. Oren calmly tells her to cut the web and bail. That's when it clicks for the blonde kid. This instructor predicted every single second of this fight. Sophia winds up for the finishing blow. Caroline struggles to break free because Logan's buff is too weak, so Oren secretly interferes again, juicing up her strength, so she rips right out of the trap. The second she's clear, the redhead drops a massive rock slide to flatten the monster. Oren praises the squad, making sure to give Logan specific credit. He points out that the smooth victory was only possible thanks to the support magic, causing the kid to totally rethink his opinion of Oren. By late afternoon, the second day wraps up, and Selma gives the rookies a pep talk. Tomorrow is the final push, so she orders everyone to rest up and stay sharp. The main character heads out and gets dragged to dinner by two of his colleagues. They couldn't care less about the tabloid trash, so he can't really say no. Meanwhile, Logan finally pulls the redhead aside to ask about the time Oren saved her life. He pressed her for details on his bro, dying to know what skills the main character actually used. Sophia didn't hesitate and broke down every move Oren pulled off. The blonde guy was baffled that Oren could stack so many support spells at once. Caroline backed that up, admitting she was stunned when her dagger suddenly felt sharply lethal after the buff. Sophia had no clue why he pivoted to swordsmanship, only that he swapped classes the second he ditched the hero's party. Logan was floored. He couldn't believe the guy crushed it as a support mage. Hearing his bro got fired was a letdown at first, but now he realized Oren was a goldmine of knowledge. The fact that he could cast agility down on high-level monsters was insane. Directly nerfing an opponent's stats is extremely high-level magic. Even Selma, a support specialist, rarely attempts it, yet our main character handles it like a standard mechanic in a system anime. It suddenly clicked for Logan just how vital a balanced formation is. If the defender holds the line, it buys squishy teammates like him time to set up their next play. Sophia emphasized that his swordplay was downright nasty. Pulling double duty as a frontliner and a support unit is practically impossible for normal people. That just proves Orun is a straight-up genius. Meanwhile, the man himself was being treated to a massive feast by his two new buddies, who assumed he lived like a king back in the heroes' party. He corrected them immediately. He was buried in administrative paperwork with zero free time. The blonde guy thought the morning news article was trash, while the black-haired friend told him to just brush it off. They couldn't help but ask why he flipped from being a buff master to swinging a sword. Orun decided to clear the air and explain the whole class change situation. Truth is, he started as a swordsman. He'd idolized the role since he was a kid, inspired by his grandfather. Back in the day, a massive demonic beast attacked their village. His grandpa, a former adventurer, stepped up and handled business. That moment hooked him on the blade, but he forced himself to switch classes when he joined the heroes' party. Their progress in the deep dungeon layers had stalled out because they totally undervalued support mages. Once they realized the issue, Orun was the only one capable of filling the gap. So he grinded to become their support mage, pushing the team all the way to floor 94. He stopped his story there, though. Spilling more tea would ruin the hero party's reputation. Now, Orun's goal is to conquer the depths on his own terms, a true jack-of-all-trades master. Hearing his resolve, his two friends were convinced he'd pull it off. Cut to the next morning, Orun's former teammates, fresh off recruiting a new support mage, marched into the dungeon to test their luck. Luna looked visibly annoyed, but tagged along anyway. Meanwhile, Orun showed up for another round of training. He was in high spirits, a total flip from yesterday. The three juniors greeted him with Logan buzzing with excitement since it was the final day of their session. Caroline cheekily asked for a reward if they survived, and Sophia was about to invite him to their guild. But before she could get the words out, Selma called him over to the strategy table. The news was blowing up about the heroes' party taking their new members straight to the dungeon's deepest zones. They were kicking things off at floor 92. They wanted to test their synergy with the rookie. Orun immediately worried about Luna. If it's just a test run, starting that deep is practically a death wish. Scene shift to the group of 5. Oliver dramatically declared the rebirth of the heroes' party. He claimed the dead weight was gone, so now they could finally unleash their potential. The new girl was just happy to be there, oblivious to the toxicity. They kept trashing Orun, totally clueless about his actual value, while the orange-haired guy was desperate to prove to Luna they were better off without him. Philly had joined just 2 days prior. Since she'd cleared floor 100 in the western region, Oliver was convinced she was a top-tier catch. The rest were just glad Orun's useless buffs were gone. Once he left, they blew their budget on a massive party since he was the one who used to manage their finances responsibly. Without him, they were spending like maniacs. Then Luna dropped the bomb. Orun had already been scouted by the Night Sky Silver Rabbit Guild. The 3 jerks were stunned. They thought he was too weak for a major guild. The blue-haired guy assumed Orun quit on his own, only to be horrified when the other 3 admitted they actually kicked him out. Oliver doubled down, insisting their new support was an upgrade. Luna looked at them with pure disappointment. Orange Hair argued that Orun couldn't keep up with their power anyway. The blue-haired guy fired back, realizing Orun was actually the backbone of the entire team. He pointed out that all their success was thanks to him, and without Orun they were toast. The female mage rolled her eyes, refusing to believe the handyman was anything special. When they realized they were heading to floor 92, Luna protested explicitly, stating she didn't want to die. But the arrogant trio insisted that floor was a cakewalk. They figured without anyone holding them back it would be even easier. Oliver, being an absolute tool, ignored all advice and pushed forward. Back in the present, the party clashed with a massive monster. But something was off immediately. Their swords bounced off the beast, and Oliver felt sluggish, like his body was made of lead. He snapped at the new girl, asking why his buffs kept dropping. She claimed she wasn't used to their combat style yet. Ironically, Orun had adapted to them in a matter of hours. On day 1, their combat efficiency plummeted. Attacks they used to tank easily were now nearly fatal. The mage fired off a fireball that looked like it tickled the enemy. Her teammates yelled at her to get serious, but she panicked, saying she was casting normally, but the damage just wasn't there. Philly kept spamming buffs, but their damage output didn't budge. Oliver couldn't wrap his head around it. Philly's stats were supposed to be higher than Orun's. Orange Hair tried to flank, but the monster targeted the mage. When they yelled at the new support to watch the field and signal them, she froze. The guy assumed a support mage handles battlefield awareness and shot calling. The girl corrected him fast. Her only job is casting buff spells, nothing else. They stood there confused, wondering why they were so weak, still blind to the obvious. Luna was completely fed up with their stupidity. She spelled it out: "You're weak because Orun isn't here." Suddenly, the strongest entity in the area, a black dragon, crashed the party. It wasn't supposed to leave the boss room, yet here it was. The monster they were struggling against got crushed by the dragon like a bug. Luna screamed to retreat, but the idiots wouldn't listen. Oliver thought since they beat it once, they could do it again. He assumed history would repeat itself. The three morons charged in and got wiped out in a single hit. Philly was paralyzed with fear, useless. Orange Hair lay there wondering how a superior support could be this incompetent. Meanwhile, the female mage got slapped into unconsciousness by the dragon. Oliver spiraled into despair. Luna yelled at him to snap out of it and stall for time, which finally shocked Philly into casting a buff on the captain. The black dragon unleashed its ultimate move, and seeing the danger, Orange Hair stopped charging his mana to take it head-on, getting absolutely destroyed in the process. Panicking, he looked to Luna for a plan. Realizing the situation was spiraling, the Luna decided to use an escape item to link their current location to a safe zone. The enchanter worried that warping blindly might dump them into a random boss room, meaning they would have to fight another high-level monster immediately. Luna figured anything was better than facing the black dragon. Oliver agreed and activated the portal tool, but in a cruel twist of fate, the dragon attacked before they could jump in, diving through the gate itself. This made everything infinitely worse. The black dragon was now loose in a random zone, meaning any low-level squad that crossed its path was essentially doomed. They had to rush back to the guild to beg for backup. Punishment was inevitable, but they had no other choice. Luna shouted at the guy for leaving the two injured members behind. Honestly, the whole group looked pathetic right now, without saying a word. While the Luna healed up, she suggested calling Oren back for help since Philly was in bad shape, even though she hated the idea of the main character cleaning up their mess. Luna finally dropped the hard truth on the group: they hadn't gotten weaker. They were performing at their actual level, the only difference was the main character wasn't there to carry them anymore. Philly explained that everyone in the squad had high magic resistance, so buffs usually only lasted a minute, and Oliver's body was a nightmare for any standard enchanter to work with. However, Oren had been the one to make it work. That idiot Oliver actually thought Philly was an upgrade over the main character, but he couldn't have been more wrong. Oren had literally invented entirely new magic, just to cover the team's weaknesses, at least according to Luna's calculations. In this leveling, anime stats are everything. The protagonist's buffs boosted their power 50 times over, while Selma from the Night Sky Silver Rabbit Guild could only manage a 10-fold increase at best. All their flashy skills relied on support from the main character. In typical system anime fashion, they had deluded themselves into thinking the power was their own, forgetting it was all thanks to his buffs. His magic even enhanced their gear and weapons. Finally realizing they were frauds and the situation was beyond them, the group fled in total shame without looking back. Bystanders were confused by the scene. Oliver, salty as ever, insisted he didn't need the main character and claimed he was still strong enough to take down the Black Dragon. Meanwhile, Oren was hyping up his 3 rookies for their last day. The goal was simple: reach Floor 51, use a teleport stone, and the mission would be complete. But even the main character felt a strange sense of unease. Usually the lead group handled the dangerous monsters, keeping the path relatively clear. Normally working together would be enough to crush the floor boss. But Oren sensed a serious threat looming ahead of them this time. Caroline was itching for a fight, totally pumped up. The protagonist warned her to chill out. Rushing in blindly was a one-way ticket to the grave. The orange-haired girl laughed, saying her aggression kept the teammates behind her safe, then asked the veteran for some pro tips. He emphasized that learning to coordinate with the team was still the most important thing. Logan agreed, noting that Anbach always preached the value of teamwork. The name rang a bell for the main character. Anbach was known as the ace of the Night Sky Silver Rabbit Guild, but had tragically died fighting the Black Dragon last year. Caroline made a sour face, insisting he didn't die because he was weak. He died shielding his team because the defender, the person supposed to protect him, failed to do their job. Caroline was dead serious. She believed that a strong vanguard protects the backline, and seeing the intensity in her eyes, Orun realized he shouldn't push the topic further. He rallied the trio once more. Sophia stepped up, asking what she specifically needed to work on to improve. Logan felt a bit left out and asked the big brother figure for advice too. Later, as they entered the maze, Selma approached the main character, asking him to look after the kids on this final run. The redhead was happy to see him bonding with the 3 rookies. Caroline and Logan had strong personalities, but they were definitely prospects with potential. She also brought up the topic of Anbach. Losing that teammate had tanked the combat power of the Night Sky Silver Rabbit, forcing them to hand over the vanguard rights to the hero party. Selma admitted they still hadn't found anyone capable of filling the massive void he left behind. The main character smiled, hoping they would find someone soon. The redhead hinted at wanting him to join, but he wasn't interested, reasoning that a team didn't need 2 enchanters. Selma clarified she wanted him to join as a swordsman, so she could witness his blade work against the floor boss. Upon reaching floor 40, she split everyone into smaller squads. The plan was to regroup at the boss floor. As usual, the main character's squad went solo, making Sophia feel a little lonely. Logan took it the other way, thinking it meant expectations for them were high. Orun explained that the maze had many paths, and mapping them out was crucial for adventurers. Finding the correct route and relaying that intel to others was how large guilds maintained their advantage with superior numbers. Caroline thought having the main character there was a total cheat code since he had been to the deepest floors of the Great Maze. He started telling them about the environmental shifts down below. Starting from floor 76, it turns into snow mountains with blizzards that get worse the deeper you go. Meanwhile, the hero party had scrambled back to the guild to report the emergency. Luna demanded to see the guildmaster, but he was in a meeting. Back in the dungeon, Logan was confused. The area was huge, but there wasn't a single monster in sight. Even the main character was baffled. It felt like the safe entrance zone, or maybe the beasts were hiding in fear of something. Suddenly, a monster appeared. Caroline didn't hesitate and rushed in to attack. Fearing for her safety, Oren instantly debuffed the creature. He lectured her, explaining that reckless moves would put Sophia and Logan in danger. Hearing that, she realized her mistake and apologized. Taking the opportunity, the protagonist taught the orange-haired girl a few techniques to sharpen her combat skills. Caroline was thrilled with the advice, knowing it would help her dominate the front line. Logan jumped in, eager to get some wisdom of his own. When the hero party was asked what happened, Oliver was too ashamed to speak, so Luna had to step up and spill the ugly truth. She requested a forced teleportation, a forbidden move that was rarely used because it drained a massive amount of mana. Luna explained that the black dragon from floor 92 had likely warped to an upper or middle layer. Her report made the guildmaster break into a cold sweat. The worst part was they had absolutely no clue where the black dragon was in the maze, meaning it could be slaughtering unsuspecting adventurers right now. Protocol demanded a citywide council meeting. Not even the guildmaster had the authority to make that call solo. Back with the main crew, Oren explains that debuff skills are a beast to master. We're talking high-tier support magic here. You have to know your enemy's magic resistance stats down to the decimal, and against monsters below floor 61 debuffs are basically useless. Since it's inefficient and drains too much energy, Logan realizes he's way out of his league. Oren's advice: master the basics first. You can grind for XP and learn debuffs later. Since a few mobs are charging, and Orun decides to teach the kid a cool new trick. Turns out Orun had already rigged the place. The trio is floored to learn this wasn't the first trap. He mined the entire path behind them. It's the standard way to prevent a rear ambush. If your main tanks are busy fighting up front and you get flanked from behind, it's game over. Controlling the battlefield is a buffer's job. Logan is totally fanboying right now, seeing the protagonist as the ultimate role model. Meanwhile, back at the association, they've finally greenlit the forced teleportation protocol, and the officers are getting to work. Because the scale of the teleport is massive, it's dragging on. An elder tells Oliver he's going to be held responsible once this is over. Oliver's salty but helpless. The two jerks beside him insist it's not their fault. The guildmaster shuts them up, ordering everyone to focus on saving lives before the whole team gets wiped. Sophia also gets some spellcasting tips from the main character. The redhead suggests she could ask the veterans at the Night Sky Guild since they have mid-floor experience. But she insists she'd rather learn from her big bro, Oren. She gives him the puppy eyes, and he caves. The formula for the forced teleportation is finally complete. The elders start pumping in a massive amount of external mana. Once that's topped off, they can forcibly extract everyone from the dungeon. The hero party is assigned to take down the black dragon. Hearing this, the two cowards look terrified and claim they're on cooldown, but Luna is ready to roll immediately. The rookie squad is still completely clueless about the black dragon threat. When they reach the boss room, they're told to hang back. They get a front row seat to watch the seniors fight. It's a great learning opportunity, so Orun tells the trio to pay attention. A temporary 5-man squad is formed with Orun carrying the team's hopes. He claims they'll speedrun this in a few minutes. Suddenly, the giant boss attacks, but Orun closes the distance before it can even blink. He slashes its legs, throwing it off balance. When the monster tries to back up and create space, he cuts off its escape route. Selma immediately buffs the others to land the finishing blow. The teamwork is flawless, and they secure an easy win, leaving the rookies stunned. The pros are on a whole different level: zero wasted movement. It's the kind of skill gap you usually only see in a leveling anime, and it makes Sophia realize just how far she has to go. As for the useless squad, they're currently running to floor 45. Oliver asks Luna why she picked this route, and she admits she's looking for Oren. The guys don't get it. They can't understand why she's obsessed with that half-baked jack-of-all-trades. Luna is done explaining. She knows they are currently the weakest S-rank team. The scumbags are in denial, but she drops the truth bomb: they don't stand a chance against the Black Dragon without Oren. At floor 50, Oren takes point again. Selma thinks cutting the crab's claw will end the fight, but the others are worried about its rock-hard defense. Oren says, "I got this." With a single strike, he shears the giant claw right off. The sheer power leaves everyone with their jaws on the floor. That move boosted his gear's efficiency and durability by 100 times a technique he invented himself. Selma continues buffing. She sets up the other three to finish off the monster. It's exactly what she expected from Oren. With the boss down, the rookies are cleared to leave, having passed their 3-day trial. The celebration is short-lived. Orun senses a terrifying aura. The teleportation space above shatters, and the black dragon crashes the party on floor 50. It's an impossible situation, sending everyone into a panic. Orun orders an immediate evacuation. The pressure from the black dragon is so intense that even Selma is paralyzed with fear. Forget the rookies. Even the 3 other instructors are frozen stiff. The burden of survival falls entirely on Orun's shoulders as he frantically looks for an out. Since the floor boss is dead, the exit is open. The problem is getting past the black dragon. Monsters have a nasty habit of targeting crowds. The others are statues. If Orun ran solo, he'd definitely survive, but that's not his style. He swore he'd protect everyone. He refuses to betray their trust. There's only one way out of this. They have to kill the black dragon right here, right now. He screams to snap the instructors out of it. He demands they put their lives on the line to protect the rookies. The mage throws up a barrier, but it feels flimsy. Seeing this, Orun secretly buffs their defense. The redhead is shocked when the barrier's strength suddenly spikes. Orun then hurls a sword straight at the dragon's eye. It doesn't do much damage, but it creates enough of an opening for an impact slash. A massive explosion rocks the room, stunning his teammates. They think that hit was enough to down the beast, but nope, its scales are impenetrable. The most terrifying part. The dragon doesn't have a scratch on it. Selma asks if he's okay, and Orun lies, saying he's fine. He tells them to retreat while he holds the line. He flashes a smile, assuring them there's still a chance to win. He equips a necklace containing a red mana stone and charges. He initiates the attack, but the dragon's fire breath forces him to dodge. Recognizing a strong opponent, the beast turns to chase Orun. The redhead is terrified, knowing that leaving Orun to tank this alone is a death sentence. Even Anbach, their strongest fighter, was wiped out by this thing. Exploiting an opening, Orun uses a reflection skill and taunts the dragon. He asks how its own fireball tastes. He thought he did something, but the dragon isn't even fazed. He realizes that if he doesn't fight like a maniac, he's dead. Orun starts casting self-buffs. It's high-tier magic that boosts every stat. Selma assumes his support magic can only double his power, but the redhead is dead wrong. This guy is stacking them. He layers 5 buffs back-to-back, leaving the so-called genius support mage questioning her entire existence. Even Selma can't believe the insane stacking magic he's pulling off. Wrapped in that power aura, the main character pushes his speed stats to the absolute limit. The black dragon snaps at him, but he dodges in a heartbeat. This isn't just a physical buff anymore. It's the pinnacle of support magic you'd expect in a high-tier leveling anime. Selma is stunned. Just how much power is this guy holding back? Sure, the 32 times multiplier is impressive, but the physical backlash cuts his active time drastically. He knows he's on a clock and needs to wrap this up fast. The beast whips its tail around for another strike, but he sidesteps it like it's nothing. Then Orun pulls a move that drops the rookie's jaws. He creates a solid platform right in thin air, using his unique ability. It's not standard magic. It's a rare talent for condensing raw mana. Most people can't do this, but for our MC, it's second nature. He can solidify mana into footholds, or release the pressure to launch himself forward like a rocket. Oliver's trick is a one-trick pony. He just uses his ability for attacks. Orun, on the other hand, is versatile, reinforcing his blade before going in for another heavy slash. That impact strike actually hurt the dragon, but the backlash is draining him fast. His friend watches terrified, realizing he's actually trying to solo a raid boss. She feels useless right now. Even the guild's elite squads couldn't scratch this thing, and they sent whole teams. The memory makes the redhead shiver. Fear starts to cloud Selma's mind, paralyzing her completely. All she can do is stand guard over the newbies. Meanwhile, the black dragon goes berserk, leaking terrifying amounts of mana and firing lasers at the protagonist. Let's rewind to Orun's childhood for a second. He was out playing with friends one day, but when they got back, their entire village had been slaughtered by bandits. The 2 kids only survived because they were skipping chores, but the trauma of burying their neighbors scarred them for life. That tragedy sparked a desperate need for strength. Orun swore right then that he'd become strong enough to protect what matters no matter the odds. Fueled by that memory, he gets his head back in the game. This dragon is a walking anomaly, but Orun is determined to crush that anomaly to keep everyone safe. The rookies cheer him on while his sister watches in horror as the dragon charges up a massive attack. This kind of power has wiped out countless heroes. How is Orun supposed to survive? He quickly analyzes that the beast is siphoning ambient mana. It's attacking from every angle with unpredictable patterns. Plus, it's holding back. Dragons are smart, and this one is pissed that a human is mocking it. He dives in looking for a weak spot, but a slash to the neck bounces off. The dragon retaliates with a mana barrage. He clears most of it, but it's still sketchy. He throws up a barrier he prepped earlier. One stray shot loops back around, but he predicted it and parries just in time. This fight defies all logic. The blonde guy thinks Orun has a shot, but Selma isn't so sure. Usually in a system anime like this, you need a full party to take down a boss. To kill something this big, you need a heavy finisher, and Orun isn't built for burst damage. Back in the hero party, they had specific roles for a reason. Oliver was the designated executioner with his nuke skills. Now Orun has to carry the DPS role too, which is nerve-wracking, but he locks in. Refusing to bow to the impossible, he ramps up the intensity. Orun starts cycling through every class role simultaneously. He even draws aggro to keep the rookies safe. He fires off multiple spells at once. It's not enough to kill the dragon yet, but it's impressive. He keeps chipping away at its health. By absorbing environmental mana, he amplifies his spells, blending magic with his unique condensation ability. The dragon stops playing around, and so does he. He switches from mage mode to warrior mode, pouring all that condensed mana into his sword. It's just like Oliver's move, except the energy is pitch black. He's perfectly replicated the technique that the orange-haired guy was so proud of. He's literally playing every role in the party. He lands a supercharged impact strike, but the dragon sacrifices its tail to avoid the fatal blow. Clever girl, that's a deep floor boss for you. Orun forces himself past his limits. It's do or die now. The dragon charges furious. Suddenly Orun's buff wears off. Selma tries to refresh it, but he waves her off. He says it'll throw off his rhythm. It stings to hear, but Selma gets it. In a high-speed duel, a split-second hesitation means death. She knows she's not on their level right now. This is Orun's fight. Once his cooldown resets, Orun stacks the buffs again. Every hit is laced with impact for max damage, slamming the dragon down, but it's still kicking. The second round of buffs drains his stamina twice as fast, and his sword finally shatters under the pressure. It's now or never. Orun cranks his ability to the max condensing mana until it crystallizes into a literal black sword. Even without impact, this thing hits harder than special grade magic. With impact, it's a nuke. He charges, deflecting every incoming blast. Using the momentum, he moves like a ghost, confusing the dragon before dropping from the sky for a limit break slash. The shockwave is so strong it rattles the rookies inside their barrier. Finally, the hard work pays off. He actually soloed the black dragon. Outside the dungeon, Luna and the crew arrive just as everyone gets teleported out. The dragon's massive corpse dumps out with them. Oliver is gearing up to fight, but the thing is already dead. The rest of the group is stunned. Luna spots Orun nearby, exhausted as his mana sword dissolves. She realizes he fought it alone and rushes to heal him, but he refuses. He just asks her to handle the loot and clean up. He walks away, leaving everyone staring. Luna sees the team is unharmed while Orun is wrecked. The math is simple. He killed the dragon by himself. His toxic ex-teammate demands to know how, but Orun ignores him. Luna steps in to shut the guy up, leaving him seething in jealousy. Luna tried to talk some sense into them, but they just lashed out. Too bad for this guy, he's got a big mouth, but he can't actually touch her in this anime recap. She locked him down with a single simple spell. Oliver stepped in to break it up, seething with jealousy because there wasn't a thing he could do about it. By nightfall, it was time to file the mission report. Sophia insisted on documenting everything Orun did. The guy didn't just teach them practical combat survival skills, he was a huge morale booster for the whole squad. The image of our main character taking down that black dragon is burned into her memory. Orun usually looks so harmless, but in that moment, he was absolute badassery personified. Selma came back looking like she'd had the worst day of her life. Her sister hadn't seen her this down in ages, so she kept the questions to herself. Instead, Sophia dragged her off for a bath to wash the stress away. Nothing beats a hot soak when you're completely drained. Naturally, the conversation drifted back to Orun's showdown with the black dragon. The cool factor was off the charts, but his raw power was the real shocker. It was terrifyingly strong power levels that just don't make sense to normal people. Sophia noted that his fighting style isn't flashy or theatrical, it's just brutally efficient fundamentals. Even the training he gave the three rookies focused entirely on the core basics for their specific roles. Selma looked genuinely surprised to hear that. Her little sister had spotted details she completely missed observing and turning those moments into valuable lessons. Selma had to admit Sophia was sharp, maybe even sharper than she was. Hearing that Sophia hyped her up, saying Selma is still the role model she looks up to. Cut to the next morning, and Orun is paying the price. His muscles are seizing up from overexertion, forcing him to use body reinforcement just to numb the agony. It makes sense, though. Dealing with some muscle spasms is a fair trade for not ending up as dragon food yesterday. A bit later, Selma dropped by. She had some serious business to discuss. She knew Orun was capable, but seeing him tear it up with a sword and different abilities was a total curveball. The redhead bowed her head low, offering her deepest thanks. If Orun hadn't stepped in, that entire group of rookies plus their 4 instructors would be dead meat. The guild owes him big time. No amount of thank yous could really cover it. Beyond the gratitude, she dropped the real offer. She wants the main character to come back to the guild and meet the big boss. Since the expedition was over, the guildmaster cut straight to the chase. He invited Oren to officially join the Night Sky Silver Rabbit Guild. He wants him on the elite squad, playing as a frontline attacker. That's right, not a support buffer, but a damage dealer. On top of that, he's fast-tracking Oren for a leadership position. When you look at his raw power and combat experience, there's probably nobody else in the entire city who can touch him. Plus, the boss knows this guy is a grinding machine who loves to learn. He's got top executive material written all over him. Selma was clearly stoked at the idea of running the guild alongside him. It was the kind of golden ticket nobody in their right mind would turn down. Still, Oren asked for a little time to chew on it. The guildmaster was cool about it, told him no pressure, take it slow. Before he left, though, he asked Oren to swing by the Adventurers Guild to handle some business since they'd sent a message earlier. Walking through the streets, Oren kept replaying the offer in his head. He was still traumatized by getting booted from his last team, which made him gun-shy. He ducked into the old man's shop to vent about the situation. The old-timer chuckled. It was rare to see Oren, who's usually so level-headed, looking this conflicted. The kid is suffering from major imposter syndrome, even with a top-tier guild like the Night Sky. Silver Rabbit rolling out the red carpet. The old man figured Oren was terrified of being used as a tool and then tossed in the trash when he wasn't needed anymore. It's a heavy thought, but he reminded him that not everyone is a scumbag. For now, he just advised Oren to go home and sleep on it before making a call. A bit later, the debriefing regarding the Black Dragon incident kicked off. The guildmaster was floored to hear the beast showed up on floor 50 right where Oren was working. He was even more shocked that Oren soloed the thing. Of course, the haters started yapping. They claimed the dragon was already on its last legs because of their finishing move earlier. They claimed Oren just got lucky with the final hit. The main character dropped the nice guy act and told them to shut the hell up. The other guy was fuming but couldn't do a thing. Then Oren turned his attention to Oliver. He asked why they dragged a rookie support mage straight down to floor 92. Was he getting cocky just because he'd been there before? In reality, Oliver had nearly died in the deep floors previously. He'd been warned that his current power level wasn't enough for those depths. That's probably why he was so salty and swapped out his support mage in the first place. The idiot doesn't even realize who was carrying him this whole time. Oren was furious these clowns didn't know the first thing about what a support mage actually does. That orange-haired moron thinks a buffer just chills in the safe zone and refreshes spells when the timer runs out. Hearing that Oren wanted to shove those words right back down his throat. Realizing that arguing with stupid is pointless, he just listed the precise timing calculations he has to run for every single buff. He has to analyze the battlefield, manage cooldowns, and shot call for the team simultaneously. And some idiot had the nerve to call that simple mechanics for a system anime. The orange-haired guy gritted his teeth in total humiliation, unable to talk back. Meanwhile, back with the three rookies, Logan was wondering what the main character was up to. What they really cared about was whether Oren would join the Night Sky Silver Rabbit Guild. Unable to wait, the trio set off to find him and ask directly. At the same time, Selma was lost in thought. She figured the odds of him joining were slim to none. The guy is a one-man army who can handle every role by himself. Plus, he definitely doesn't need her buff spells. Being considered a top-tier support mage and getting rejected like that, it made the redhead feel pretty pathetic. Just then, the three kids ran up to ask where Oren was. Seeing them so eager to recruit Oren to the guild, the older sister was a bit surprised. Selma admitted she wasn't sure if he'd even give their guild a second glance. In fact, with their current skill level, they'd just be dead weight for the main character. Logan knew that better than anyone, but he still wanted Oren on the team. He saw it as a chance to learn from the best. They might be weak now, but this is a classic leveling anime situation. They'll grind until they're worthy. Hearing that, Selma cheered up, realizing she could learn a thing or two from him as well. Meanwhile, Oren finished his business at the Adventurers Guild. Next on the agenda was dealing with the penalty fees for forcing the guild to use that wide area teleportation spell. From a distance, he spotted the three rookies sprinting toward him. Sensing a headache incoming, he decided to bail immediately. But those kids were persistent. They weren't giving up. With no other choice, the main character used his abilities to create a foothold and parkour onto the roof. Poor kids, they just wanted to talk, but he was dodging them like they had the plague. They played a game of cat and mouse until the sun went down. The trio still hadn't given up. The old man asked why he was going to such lengths, and Oren admitted he'd decided not to join any party. He was hiding because telling them no to their faces would just break their hearts. Outside, Logan had already figured out the big brother didn't want to join. So he pivoted. If he couldn't be a teammate, he'd ask Oren to be his master. The two girls were totally on board with that plan. Watching this unfold, the old man was thrilled to see Oren so loved. He could see the kid was actually happy. He told Oren that while finding a place to belong is tough, he doesn't have to choose a lonely path. That piece of advice was exactly what Oren needed to change his mind. Running into Sophia out here was pure chance. It's the spot where the sisters usually come to gaze at the moon. The name Night Sky Silver Rabbit actually ties back to that moonlight. It's seen as a beacon guiding the way through the darkness. That's why the Silver Rabbit is looked up to as a compass for adventurers. Hearing that description, an image of a certain redhead popped right into Oren's head. He made it clear he wanted to stick around for the long haul. The very next day, our guy headed straight to the Silver Rabbit headquarters to make it official. And instead of addressing Vince by name, he respectfully called him Commander. That one word sealed the deal. From now on. Our MC was officially a part of the Night Sky Silver Rabbit. Selma was already there, ready to welcome the rookie. She even brought Orun his uniform personally. When he stepped out wearing it, the three kids were absolutely thrilled. This meant they'd get to stay together for a long time. Let's rewind a bit to Orun's past classic anime recap territory. After losing his entire family, he trained non-stop alongside Oliver. But over time, Orun started falling behind, losing to him more and more. That really rubbed Oliver the wrong way because he knew our MC wasn't going all out. Meanwhile, others saw Orun as the key piece they needed to achieve their goals. The orange-haired guy snapped at his friend for messing around, insisting he used to be way stronger than this. Orun just told him to chill and not overhype him. He claimed he was already giving it his all. He believed Oliver, being a natural-born genius, had left him in the dust ages ago. But Oliver wasn't buying that humble act and got frustrated. He swore he'd force our MC to unleash his full power against him. Oren, though, figured that day would never come simply because he had zero desire to kill his friend. That's when a silver-haired girl stepped in to cheer them up. Cheyenne knew exactly what kind of monstrous power lay dormant inside Oren. That's why she always dreamed of becoming as strong as him one day. He admitted that currently he had a fragile heart. He couldn't handle the weight of his own power or the way people looked at him. Oliver, on the other hand, had become the leader everyone relied on. Cheyenne promised she'd work hard to stand by his side, sensing she had a similar potential inside her. She swore they'd always be together no matter the distance and that she'd catch up to him soon. That was the promise she made back then. Cutting to the present with the Supreme Chairman, the Southern Guild leader had arrived to report on the whole Black Dragon situation. He mentioned an adventurer who single-handedly took down the Black Dragon. That little detail piqued the chairman's interest. Immediately, it seemed they knew something he didn't. Challenging a Black Dragon solo is basically a suicide mission. He assumed Oliver was the one crazy enough to pull it off, but the old man shook his head. It wasn't him. The guy's mind immediately clicked over to Oren. The Supreme Chairman was well aware of his history and the terrifying power he possessed. In his normal state, our MC shouldn't stand a chance against a Black Dragon, which sparked fears that Orun had reverted to his old dangerous self. But the Southern leader insisted Orun hadn't changed a bit. That came as a relief. It meant Oren likely used some trick to take down the beast. Still, he ordered that any future moves by Oren be reported immediately. Meanwhile, in a different region, the strongest party was out on a hunt. The top 5 teams had banded together for some shady business, wiping out everything in their path without breaking a sweat. And guess who's leading them? Shion. According to her calculations, the East was tapped out. No formidable adventurers were left to challenge them there. So they set their sights on a new target. Just then, a messenger in white showed up with fresh intel from headquarters. An adventurer had soloed a Black Dragon. They were calling him the Dragon Slayer, but withheld his name. The orders were clear: make contact, and if he's hostile, take him out. Cheyenne was genuinely shocked that the South had someone that powerful. Headquarters suspected this guy was aligned with the Order, their sworn enemies. Cheyenne quickly deduced that it couldn't be Oliver. Her teammates thought recruiting him would be the smart move, but if he was an Order lackey, they'd just wipe him out. They were curious about this Dragon Slayer's power level, though Cheyenne herself was already strong enough to take down a Black Dragon. She didn't really want to mess with this rumored guy, fearing her team might get hurt. Her main motivation was protecting the South, ensuring it wouldn't get wiped out like the West did back in the day. For some reason, Cheyenne was convinced Orun was dead. That belief drove her to get stronger every single day, inheriting his will to protect their homeland. And even now, her love for him hadn't faded one bit. She was devastated the day she heard Orun was gone, and her heart had been frozen cold ever since. She swore vengeance on the old foxes of the Order for causing Orun's death. Back with Orun, he was being nominated for a high-ranking officer position thanks to his insane achievements. He didn't just risk his neck for his teammates, he had the brains to match. Back in the day, he practically managed the entire hero party single-handedly. That's why the commander wanted to promote Orun to a leadership role in the Silver Rabbit, filling the shoes of Anbach, who had sacrificed himself fighting the Black Dragon. The decision needed approval from half the board, so a few members had questions. Everyone had high expectations for our MC, especially since the commander himself nominated him. He needed to know if Orun was truly ready to give his all to the guild. Taking a leadership role meant one wrong move could cost other members their lives. The Silver Rabbit always put the guild's interest first. Orun understood that clearly. But he had sworn a personal oath long ago, one he couldn't break and wouldn't betray. So he flat out refused to pledge his total loyalty to the guild. That answer ruffled some feathers. When they asked him why he was even there, Oren said it was to protect the things that mattered to him from the moment he joined. He was determined to use every ounce of his strength to protect his teammates. No matter what happens, no matter the situation or how crazy it gets, I won't lose anyone ever again. He didn't care about the guild's reputation, he cared about the people in it. That answer and his willingness to put his life on the line was enough to win over the entire board. The commander was more than satisfied. After the meeting wrapped up, Selma scolded Oren for giving them all a heart attack. Next up, it was time to meet the members of the top-ranked squad. Estella ran over to introduce herself. She worked in exploration management. Knowing our MC had experienced training rookies, she asked him to mentor a squad. Since 2 girls were asking, Oren agreed. He figured it wouldn't be as grueling as his time with the hero party, maybe even a cushy gig. But when he walked into the room, 3 other members were waiting. Along with Selma, they were the Silver Rabbit's heavy hitters. They'd all met before, so there was no awkwardness. First up was Rain, a 24-year-old mage. She wasn't exactly packing much in the chess department, something Oren couldn't help but mentally roast her for. Then there was the blonde healer Lucretia, who was 18 just like Oren. And finally Wilkes, a 20-year-old defender. These 4 were his new squad. Oren said his hellos, but they wasted no time getting to the big question. How on earth did he take down a black dragon all by himself? Our MC didn't mind sharing his secret. He used 2 main types of magic. The first was Impact, which amplified his gear's effectiveness by 100 times. Then there's his second skill, the ability to stack multiple buffs at once. Specifically, Oren's combat power multiplied 32 times during his fight with the black dragon, which sounds so overpowered it left the others in total shock. However, that spell puts crazy pressure on the body, so keeping it active for too long is pure torture. With Oren's abilities, he can technically cover every role in a party. But there is one weird thing. His magic is stuck at the intermediate tier. He has no idea why that is. Since Orun also possesses a special power, this team now has 3 gifted users, a classic setup for a leveling anime squad. They're heading out on a trip tomorrow, so they'll get a chance to show off their skills. Unfortunately, the main character's weapon is busted right now, so he needs to go shopping for a new one. It was pretty shocking to learn that he's always used cheap swords from the market instead of custom gear. Rain demanded he get a custom piece made right away since he represents the Night Sky Silver Rabbit Guild now. Why make life harder? It's not cool for their trump card to be using a mass-produced blade. That's exactly why they took a run to get a weapon that actually suits him. Olin is the best blacksmith in the guild, hands down. After getting talked into it, Oren finally understood why it's so critical to have a weapon that matches his insane power level. The smith insisted they needed materials from the deep dungeon floors to make something worthy. Luckily, from his time with the heroes, Oren had hoarded a bunch of loot, including scales from the black dragon. Just seeing those scales terrified the other 3 since that creature had taken the lives of their comrades. Orun realized he made a mistake and wanted to apologize for bringing up such bad memories. Fortunately, Rain is pretty sharp and managed to lighten the mood so everyone could snap out of their funk.